Dude, I'm telling you, women nowadays, the way that they're dressing, where they go, putting themselves in danger like that. I mean, come on. Good thing I'm a nice guy. I mean, I'll make sure she gets home, all right? I mean, if she wants to stop by my apartment first for a drink or like a little nightcap, I mean, whatever, but I'm a nice guy.
I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was hoping you'd feel differently by now.
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is? I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. Lately, I've been feeling like I might want to get back into it.
We have Promising Young Woman. First of all, hello and welcome to the year 2021 and the first movie review of the year compared to last year's first movie review of the year with a movie I will say this one is much better. Regals are still closed nationwide, so luckily there's a couple of different AMCs that aren't as convenient or close, but they're around, and I was just jonesing to go see a movie with the safety of social distancing, masks, the whole 9 yards, so no worries there. But we have a movie that I heard a little bit of Oscar buzz thanks to the performance of Carey Mulligan, which I'll get into in a moment. But reviews online were looking pretty good for this one, so I figured out of all the movies to see right now, let's check this one out. Maybe go see Wonder Woman next or something like that. Apologies, I'm a little bit rusty with the review game, but I got my I got my fuckboy outfit on, so I think I'm okay. Directed by Emerald Fennell. Her filmography is actually pretty extensive, but most notably known for working on The Crown on Netflix, which has skyrocketed in popularity. Another show that I have to eventually check out, but will do. And then you might know more of what she's done with The Danish Girl. That won a lot of awards, right? I remember they talked about The Danish Girl a lot. So you probably saw this trailer. If you're anything like my friend and partner, the franchise, you probably didn't recognize the name of this movie. But if you saw the trailer, it popped up a few times in theaters and was basically kind of shown as a rape revenge movie in a way. Not something as gritty as Last House on the Left, but something kind of in a similar vein. It's modern. It has Carey Mulligan starring in it, which if you don't know her, by the way, again, an actress that is famed and has a very extensive filmography. You would probably recognize her dressed up in the 20s garb from The Great Gatsby. Otherwise, you'd probably know her from a little bit of an older one, The Pride and Prejudice. She was in one of my favorites, Drive. Was actually in that one as well. So she's well established. And in this movie, the whole conceit of it is, and this isn't a spoiler, by the way, it's just literally the premise of the film as indicated by the trailers, is Carey Mulligan is now almost a 30-year-old woman, or she just turned 30. But back when, she was still a teenager in grad school, she was studying to become a doctor. She had a best friend named Nina, and something happens where Nina, basically, it's in the trailers, it's implied, and when she's talking about it in the movie, until it's outright kind of gone into detail, it's implied her friend gets, date raped, or more basically raped. I mean, there's subcategories, but let's not split hairs here. Her friend gets raped by these guys at the same school they're all going to, and the guys that are basically responsible for doing it, for the ones that are present when it happens, are the ones that are all culpable and all that. Everybody gets away with it, essentially. Nina is left with the adverse side effects of what happened, which are PTSD and just the sheer legal battle that ensues and the social pressure and all that. And Nina is no longer with us by the time this film starts. So Carey's character's whole ordeal is basically to pretend she's drunk in different bars, lure these nice guys and these stand-up wonderful model men citizens, back to lure them into a situation where they'll naturally be like, oh, you want to come by my apartment and all this? I'll get you home, but why don't we come by my place, have a drink and everything? And basically make sure, it's almost like, it's crazy the commentary. I'm going to get kind of already in talking about the movie. It's crazy how well it does nail the dynamic of that, because the movie will make you feel uncomfortable through a lot of it, but it's supposed to, because the issues that this film addresses are very important issues. They're very real issues when it comes to rape, date rape accusations therein of like kind of predatory men, sexual assaults, how society views it, how society and everybody in it will tend to view the women involved versus the men involved. And it's kind of funny because she doesn't really, it's not even, you couldn't even really call this entrapment what she does, because she literally just like plays the role of a character. The only thing she's being deceitful of, if you even want to call it that, is pretending to be drunk. These men, like, you know, men dig their own grave a lot of the time, and that's what these guys are doing. They're basically like taking the situation into their own hands because they think they have the upper hand, and then they just, you know, will then coerce women into these very compromising situations, and then boom, you have all these unfortunate Me Too happenstances that occur way too often. From the top down, I will say this movie was a good movie. My personal enjoyment of it, I'm on the fence about for some reasons again that I'll get into, but it was good. I liked the messages that it brought to the table. Some were brought in a very organic manner that kind of shone through in the characters that the actors portrayed and the, you know, the settings and the scenes. Some were a little bit ham-handed in the dialogue. The way you're communicating it now feels like an after-school special, but most of the film does not do that. In these situations, you don't need to have subtlety and nuance to communicate what went down, if that makes any sense. And you shouldn't either. Like, this type of thing, I'm glad they make films like this that are showcasing, you know, these things happen and are still happening, have been happening for a long time. You know, rape, all that. Opposite Carey Mulligan, arguably the other lead of this film, Bo Burnham. If you don't know who he is, I am so sorry for your loss, and where have you been? I fell in love with him way back in, middle elementary school? Back when he was just a singing comedian, that his act then evolved into these intricate, crazy, introspective, intelligent, borderline plays, but they were these theatrical stage performances and all that. I could gush about Bo Burnham all day long. His filmography, aside from like the occasional cameo here and there in films, I mean, he directed 8th Grade, which came out a few years ago, and I loved 8th Grade. I thought it was a fantastic film, and Elsie Fisher did a fantastic job in it. So Bo's in here as the other, I don't want to say protagonist, but he's another character in the film. I actually like their chemistry together on screen. It's just kind of like dweeby and, like, to me, adorable. But it's the kind of chemistry, like, literally what he does when he flirts is 100% what I do when I flirt. So it was like a relatable character, which is unfortunate given how the movie progresses. I will say Carey steals the show. Carey Mulligan, there's talks about her possibly getting like an Oscar nomination. At the very least, that should happen. Carey's a great actor in general.
I say actor, not actress, because the word actress is nonsensical.
I think that she definitely carries this film. I don't want to say carries to poo-poo any of the other performances. There's a lot of surprise cameos in this movie from actors that are all well-established in their own field. But I will just say, like, obviously she's the main character. Obviously she has the most screen time, and so her character shines brighter than all the others. I'm just for the sake of what the film is and her character on screen. So that was great. She was very engaging in the entire film and all facets of her character. The only places where it starts to fall a little bit flat for me, and I hate to pick apart a movie like this, but it's kind of the job, right? The tone for me it didn't fall flat, but the tone felt muddled because the film demonstrates itself as like a drama, but also a comedy, I guess you could say. And there's definitely a lot of comedic beats in the film, whether it's like comedy that's supposed to be organic from the situation or flat out jokes that are kind of put on screen that are more obviously aimed to be humor. But for me, I almost didn't like the offset of the humor in certain situations because I was trying to be involved in the story of Carrie's character and her old friend Nina and all this. And so there's some very serious, very, very dark moments that, you know, they have their moment on screen, but they feel oddly offset by the comedy of what also unfolds around these characters and events. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers or anything, but I'm just saying the tone, there were mental notes I made to myself in the movie where I was like, man, I want to feel like that scene that just happened has way more gravity because it definitely should, but now the characters are like making light of it and making jokes on screen, and it's like now I find myself chuckling, but like at the same time I'm torn because I know I should be feeling, you know, anger or sadness, but instead the movie's like, oh, but now you can laugh. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of want to feel those beats and those moments, but it just kind of was what happened. That, and again, without saying how it ends, I will say, not a fan of the ending. I wasn't a fan of how the movie ended, which I suppose is the point of this film. This film is unfortunately a very realistic portrayal of the kind of society that we live in regards to this, like, Me Too and date rape culture and all that. Unfortunately, left me with a sense of, like, hopelessness and a sense of, like, this is just kind of how the world is. And definitely pointed out to me that it shouldn't be how the world is, and it shouldn't be how it operates, but it's mixed. I feel mixed about it because I appreciate that it's bringing this important topic to the spotlight and is addressing this and is showing you kind of how everybody approaches and deals with it. Again, like I said before, but it's just unfortunate because then I just have like this slimy feeling inside where I'm like, well, shit, yeah, that is how things are. I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. Hopefully I'm wrong and things can get towards a better society, but I don't know, man. I mean, people are pretty shitty. But this film felt like a less engaging version of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, because that's also, well, that was one of my top 10 of that year when it came out, and it's a fantastic movie with fantastic performances, but this movie felt more like a good movie with really great performances, you know what I mean? Like, same premise, almost the exact same premise, but different setting, different characters, and, you know, but again, similar themes in terms of the perpetrators, in terms of culpability, in terms of crime and punishment, people getting away with something, people not getting away with something. So, funny enough, yeah, very similar movies, but I wanted to like this movie a lot more than I did. Not to say that I didn't like this movie. I would definitely find myself watching this movie again. I would very happily show this to people, you know, for the sake of the subject matter, and for people to know their voices being heard, but also maybe to educate some people who aren't really on board with these progressive ideologies. In any case, it's a good movie. It is an important movie. But overall, in terms of my enjoyment, what I took away from the entire film, overall, I'm going to give the film a strong 3.5. And I wanted to give it a 4 so badly, but when it comes down to it, the big detractions for me were the tone just felt a little muddled in spots where it really pulled me out of the film, and where I almost wish it would have taken itself a little bit more seriously in a couple spots. It's not an issue prevalent throughout the whole film. Movies like Thor Ragnarok are movies that I don't like because they really muddle the waters between, you know, rapid fire jokes and when am I supposed to feel something for these characters on screen. This movie does not do that. This movie does have a lot of very serious and very sad moments, but there are key moments where the tone gets muddled for me, took me out of it. In addition to that, the movie just, I know it's supposed to, but the movie just made me feel slimy and just not very hopeful about the future, about how society is now, and I don't know. I get it. I know that's the point of it, and I appreciate somebody for having the balls to do that, but again, for me, there's just a few things that didn't click for me. But I wanted to give it more than a 3 because this definitely is a good film, a very good film. Direction was fine, cinematography was great, the color palettes used throughout I liked, the characters, the actors, everything all came together. I just have some issues with the themes and the overall, like, not the message, but the overall just feeling of hopelessness that I had, which I get is probably the point. But for me, a solid, strong 3.5, almost barely a 4. I recommend going to see it. I would say go see it in theaters, check it out for yourself. I want you to support the creators of this film and everybody involved in it. So if you feel like safe enough to go to a theater, do it. Otherwise, I think you can rent it right now. But in any case, I recommend it. It's worth a watch. At the very least, it is worth a watch because these are important issues that we're dealing with in society. It's important. And so many people, unfortunately, don't take these issues seriously. And because of that, many, many women suffer. And unfortunately, by the tone of the film and by all present accounts and standards, many more women will suffer. So hopefully we can stop that. Just, unlike how I'm dressed, don't be a fucking dick. Don't be a douche. Respect boundaries. Use your head and don't take advantage of people, especially women. Like, don't give me any of this horse shit about somebody asking for it, dressing a certain way, or putting themselves in a compromise. No, don't give me any of that shit. We can argue all day till the cows come home. I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, if someone can't give you consent to do something, can't give you sober, legitimate consent, then I tell you what, whether it's going to get a burger at lunch, whether it's going to get a cup of tea after dinner, whether it's to buy a fucking piece of art from somebody, or whether it's to have sex with somebody, if somebody doesn't give you consent for any of those things, just don't fucking do it. End of story. Anyway, that's all there is. It got serious there for a second, but yeah, that was my review for Promising Young Woman. Again, recommend it. Good flick. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. Hopefully the pandemic will subside in a couple months or so, maybe a bit more, and Regal will open back up. I want to go see more movies, but in the meantime, you guys and gals out there, thank you so much for all these years of support. Stay safe, stay healthy, try to just help people, don't hurt them, and I'll see you guys and gals in the next movie review that I do. Goodbye, travelers.